Welcome to a journey through the intriguing world of one of America's most influential families, the Rockefellers. From the Gilded Age of industrialization to the modern era of global finance, the story of the Rockefellers is as captivating as it is complex. Throughout history, the Rockefellers have wielded immense power and influence, shaping the very fabric of American society. From the oil fields of Pennsylvania to the boardrooms of Wall Street, their name has become synonymous with wealth, ambition, and legacy. Join us as we delve deep into the enigmatic world of the Rockefellers, uncovering the untold stories and hidden truths behind their vast fortune. Get ready to embark on an unforgettable journey into the heart of American power. The world of the Rockefellers awaits. John Davison Rockefeller, born into poverty on July 8, 1839, faced adversity from a young age. With no father figure to guide him, he bore the responsibility of providing for his family alone. At just 16, Rockefeller entered the world of business, driven by a determination to transcend his circumstances. Rockefeller's investment in the oil business stemmed from his savings and the success of his earlier business ventures. Rockefeller's investment in the oil business stemmed from his savings and the success of his earlier business ventures. The oil industry of the 19th century was a dynamic and rapidly evolving landscape. The discovery of oil in Pennsylvania's Titusville region in 1859 marked the beginning of a new era, as entrepreneurs and investors flocked to the area in search of wealth and opportunity. Oil wells sprung up like mushrooms, tapping into vast underground reservoirs and unleashing a torrent of black gold. The rise of the oil industry revolutionized the American economy, fueling industrialization and innovation on an unprecedented scale. Oil became the lifeblood of modern civilization, powering factories, lighting homes, and propelling the engines of progress. The demand for oil seemed insatiable, driving prices ever higher and attracting ambitious entrepreneurs like Rockefeller to the fray. How did he rise to the top of the oil business? After Rockefeller introduced his own product to the market, there was a veritable boom in the industry. Demand for oil skyrocketed, and Rockefeller benefited immensely from this upswing. John was confident that the oil industry would make him extremely rich, but it quickly became apparent that he needed some help. So, John took on a new partner to lead the company, a man named Henry Flagler. The two men were remarkably similar. Like John, Henry wasn't interested in making a little money. He wanted to build an empire. That's why when John told him about his ambitious plans for Standard Oil, Henry was all in. He was also just as religious, disciplined, and determined as John. In fact, perhaps the only difference was that Henry was even more ruthless when it came to doing business. Henry approached business the same way he would approach war. The only way to win was to completely crush your enemy. And so, John adopted this philosophy as well. Competition in the oil refining industry was quickly turning warlike. Now that others had uncovered how simple the refining process really was, Rockefeller's product was no longer unique. New brands of kerosene were popping up all over the market. So, John and Henry began scheming and decided to form strategic alliances that would not only boost Standard Oil's profits, but also hurt their competitors at the same time. One example of this was when John secretly colluded with the railroads to get better transportation costs than all their competitors. At the time, oil was transported from one place to another by an extensive network of trains, mostly dominated by three railroad companies: the New York Central, the Erie, and the most powerful company in America at the time, the Pennsylvania Railroad. Because of the way their routes were laid out, it was beneficial for the New York Central and the Erie railroads to carry oil to refineries in Cleveland. But for the Pennsylvania Railroad, it was more profitable to carry oil directly to New York City or Philadelphia. So, the Pennsylvania Railroad declared that Cleveland would be wiped out as a refining center, and they pulled out of the city completely. After this news that the largest railroad was leaving the city, many refineries in Cleveland left the city too. This was a disaster for the New York Central and Erie railroads, who had made sizable investments in Cleveland and were now losing customers. So, instead of joining the panicking crowd and leaving Cleveland, John saw that the Erie and New York Central railroads were in dire need of business, and he decided to use their desperation to his advantage. In exchange for a consistent flow of oil through their networks, John negotiated a deal with the Erie, in which Standard Oil would get a 75% discount on the railroad's official shipping costs, and in exchange for a daily order of 60 carloads of refined oil, John negotiated another deal with the New York Central Railroad to pay $165 per barrel ship it when the official rate was $240. With both railroads, John now had extremely favorable rates secured, and even though the railroads were reluctant to accept these lower prices, the guaranteed consistent shipments were irresistible to them. In fact, since these railroads went from shipping all sorts of things to focusing just on oil, they could simplify their operations and boost their profits. So, it was win-win for everyone, well, except for the Pennsylvania Railroad and Standard Oil's competitors. Because of the deal, Cleveland became the largest refining center in the country. And since the Pennsylvania Railroad had abandoned the city, it was at a steep disadvantage when trying to revive their business there. And of course, the discounts John had negotiated with the railways, known as railroad rebates, were kept a secret to Standard Oil's competitors. And so, all the other oil businesses would have to pay the full price to transport their oil on the very same trains. And here's the thing. Because John knew for a fact that his costs were now lower than all his competitors, he was able to trigger a price war. John would lower the price of his oil so that his competitors would have to do the same in order to remain competitive in the market. But since John knew his competitors were paying more than him to transport the oil, and thus at higher costs, even if they charged the same price for their oil, John was still making more profit. He knew his competitors wouldn't be able to survive, so John kept slashing the prices, and eventually, the price would go so low that some competitors would go bankrupt. Once they went bust, Standard Oil would have way less competition, so John could bump up the price again and charge even more than he did originally. It was brutal, but it was extremely effective. Now, John knew these railroad rebates were morally dubious. They gave bigger. How did Rockefeller become a billionaire? As Rockefeller's ventures in the oil industry flourished, his ambitions soared to new heights. Buoyed by his early successes, he set his sights on even greater conquests, driven by an insatiable hunger for wealth and power. With each triumph, Rockefeller's empire expanded, reaching ever greater heights of influence and prosperity. His mastery of the oil trade became the stuff of legend, as he employed a combination of ruthless business tactics and strategic foresight to cement his dominance in the industry. As his wealth grew, so too did his influence. Rockefeller wielded his power with a deft hand, forging alliances, crushing rivals, and shaping the course of American industry with an iron will. But amidst the trappings of success, Rockefeller never lost sight of his ultimate goal: to build a legacy that would stand the test of time. With each passing year, he devoted himself tirelessly to his vision, leaving an indelible mark on the world that would endure long after his passing. And so, it was through unwavering determination, unparalleled ambition, and a relentless pursuit of excellence that John D. Rockefeller ascended to the ranks of the world's first billionaires, leaving an enduring legacy that continues to inspire awe and admiration to this day.
Well, alright, tryna fight.